like to get married. I'd like to have a family. It's a normal thing to do. I mean, who wants to grow old and be alone, you know what I mean? To find that one girl, it's a thing that you can't rush.
It was a classic tale of boy meets girl. But in this case, the boy was the most famous star in the world. Elvis and Priscilla's journey is one imbued with love, but also controversy and turbulence. This is the story of when Elvis met Priscilla.
One for the money, two for the show, three to get ready. Now go, cat, go, but don't you?
In the post-war landscape of the 1950s, one young man caused a seismic shift to music and culture at large. Elvis Presley. Me down, slapping my face, slapping my name all over the place. Do anything that you want to do, but honey, take home the money. Born on January 8, 1935 in Tupelo, Mississippi, Elvis grew up in poverty. His upbringing in the South, however, was an influence on his musical style. The music he would make would be directly informed by gospel, blues, and country.
The most important thing of all, as far as music goes, was gospel music. Elvis loved to sing gospel music. I think it made his connection with God and Jesus and Christian. Because he was raised on gospel music. And he loved to sing that. He felt great. He'd go down in the music room by himself and sit and play the piano and sing gospel music. That was his favorite music of all.
Elvis showed a keen interest in music from the start. Even though money was tight, Elvis's parents supported their son's budding talents.
I'd like to say that I learned very early in life that without a song, the day would never end. Without a song, a man ain't got a friend. Without a song, the road would never bend. Without a song. So I'll keep singing a song. When I was a child, ladies and gentlemen, I was a dreamer. I read comic books and I was the hero of the comic book. I saw movies and I was the hero in the movie. So every dream that I ever dreamed has come true 100 times. These gentlemen over here, you see these type people who care, they're dedicated. You realize that it's not possible that they might be building the kingdom. It's not too far-fetched in reality.
When Elvis was 13 years old, his family relocated to Memphis in search of better opportunities. Memphis was a vibrant city with a rich musical culture, and it had a profound impact on Elvis's musical development. Memphis was a melting pot of musical styles. It was a city where African American and white cultures intersected, particularly in the realm of music. The amalgamation of diverse musical styles played a pivotal role in shaping the birth of rock and roll. This genre, which emerged later, went on to revolutionize the music industry and left a lasting impact on American pop culture. At his new Memphis high school, Elvis would enter talent competitions playing the guitar and singing.
Elvis was a bit of a loner back then. He had maybe 3 or 4 friends that lived in the same housing project he did, and primarily was shy, did not really come out of his shell until a couple of talent shows, and the girls started screaming him. I mean, he always liked girls. I mean, I think he had more girlfriends than he had guy friends.
When I first realized I could sing, at about 2 years of age, I found myself singing. I mean, I was singing, and people would listen to me around the housing project where I lived. And as time went by, I was about 8 years old, and they entered me in a talent show. I wore glasses, had no music, and I won, I think it was 5th place in this talent contest, this state talent contest. I got a whipping the same day. My mother whipped me for something. I wanted to ride.
After graduating high school, Elvis began working at Crown Electric for a wage of $1 per hour as a truck driver. In the summer of 1953, an 18-year-old Elvis walked into Sun Records, a small recording studio located on Union Avenue in Memphis, Tennessee. The young Elvis paid $4 to record 2 songs as a gift for his mother, Gladys. The studio owner, Sam Phillips, recognized a uniqueness in Elvis's voice and style. Elvis would return to the studio in the following year to record That's All Right. Elvis would begin to perform live, being played on the radio and whipping up a devoted and passionate fan base.
I remember it explicitly. I was driving down Valentine Avenue here in Memphis with a friend of mine who also went to Hume's, and we were listening to Dewey Phillips, as all the kids did back then. And Dewey started going off about, well, I got this brand new record by this boy who was from Hume's High School, and both my friend and I looked at each other. We were trying to figure out who it was and played the record, and we thought it was really good. And at the end, he said Elvis Presley, and it just, you know, it really shocked us. And he played it like 7 or 8 times in a row. Because he said the response on the telephone was just phenomenal.
He went from an introverted Memphis truck driver to a rock and roll superstar in a mere 18 months. By the end of 1954, Elvis's music career had gained traction so rapidly that he was able to transition into a full-time performer and recording artist.
1956, Elvis Presley revolutionizes rock and roll. It looked like nothing could slow him down. But something did. Drafted at the peak of his success, Presley is inducted into the Army on March 24th, 1958.
Elvis officially entered the U.S. Army in 1957, but commenced his training in 1958.
And they don't give the Purple Heart for a fallen arch.
While there could be several reasons for Elvis agreeing to conscription, one stands out as the most probable: the influence of his manager, Colonel Tom Parker. Elvis received offers for various military positions, including the Navy and the Air Force, where he could have entertained troops and potentially avoided some of the standard soldier training. The Navy even proposed the idea of an Elvis Presley company comprising a battalion of his friends, along with private lodgings in Las Vegas where he could sleep between performances. Colonel Tom, however, convinced him otherwise. He told Elvis that these were not the avenues for his act, partly because they would include performing for free, which was not part of the Colonel's way.
Occupation GI Blue. Occupation GI Blue.
Colonel Parker was also apprehensive about the potential impact on Elvis's reputation if he opted for a more convenient path in the Army, rather than the standard military service. According to the Washington Post, Elvis embraced this concern, expressing, "People were expecting me to mess up, to goof up in one way or another. They thought I couldn't take it and so forth, and I was determined to go to any limits to prove otherwise, not only to the people who were wondering but to myself."
How the Army would stand the impact of Mr. Presley was a big question months ago, but not now, as Elvis explained.
Elvis, since you've been in the Army, have the boys given you kind of a rough time in the barracks because of your past career, would you say? No, sir, I was very surprised. I've never met a better group of boys in my life. They probably would have if it'd been like everybody thought. I mean, everybody thought I wouldn't have to work and I would be given special treatment and this and that. But when they looked around and saw I was on KP and I was pulling guard and everything just like they were, well, they figured, well, it's just like us.
When he's demobbed, Elvis hopes to develop his talent as a movie actor. Meanwhile, it's the Army for Elvis the Pelvis.
However, tragedy struck. Elvis's mother, Gladys, passed away after a hepatitis diagnosis. Elvis was granted emergency leave and arrived in Memphis on August 12, 1958, but sadly, she succumbed to heart failure on August 14th at the age of 46. Reflecting on Elvis's profound grief over his mother's loss, his friend Judy Spreckles recalled, "I have never seen anyone as sad as Elvis was. He cried continuously. We were in the front hall at Graceland, and he stood there hugging me for a half hour. He was crying and crying and crying. It was the saddest thing I'd ever seen." Upon returning to the Army, Elvis was assigned to West Germany. It would be here that Elvis and Priscilla's paths would cross for the first time. Priscilla Ann Wagner was born in Brooklyn on May 24, 1945, to U.S. Navy pilot James Frederick Wagner and his wife Ann. Their relationship had spanned over 3 years. Unfortunately, tragedy struck when Priscilla was 6 months old, as her father, Wagner, lost his life in a plane crash while returning home on leave. 4 years later, Anne remarried a United States Air Force officer named Paul Beaulieu from Quebec. The family experienced frequent relocations as her stepfather's Air Force career led them from Connecticut to New Mexico to Maine. Describing herself during this time, Priscilla reflected, "A shy, pretty little girl, unhappily accustomed to moving from base to base every 2 or 3 years. She expressed feeling uneasy about the constant moves, unsure if she could form lasting friendships or fit in at each new location." In 1956, the Beaulieux settled in Del Valle, Texas, but their stability was short-lived as her stepfather was soon transferred to Wiesbaden, West Germany. Priscilla was deeply affected by this news, especially after just completing junior high, as her fear of leaving friends behind and the uncertainty of making new ones resurfaced once again. However, Priscilla's move to West Germany would prove to change the course of her life forever. On a November night in 1959, Priscilla, wearing a navy and white sailor dress, traveled to Elvis's temporary home in Bad Nauheim. She immediately captured the star's attention.
The first time he met Priscilla, I happened to be at the house. When she walked in the door, I mean, very pretty young lady, but I didn't know how old she was at the time, and I figured she was about 16, but at the time she was 14, I find out later.
Elvis allegedly regressed to acting like an awkward, embarrassed boy-next-door figure in front of her. As the evening progressed, he managed to compose himself and showcased his musical prowess by playing several songs, including Are You Lonesome Tonight, in an effort to impress her.
When I kissed you and called you sweetheart, do the chairs in your parlor seem empty and bare? Do you gaze at your doorstep and picture me there?
Elvis had a tremendous draw to him emotionally and physically, where you looked at him and you thought, that is probably about the best looking man I've ever seen. He just had a charisma about him. He had a way of pulling you in. People call it Southern charm. He had it in spades. There really wasn't much that Elvis couldn't get if he really went after it, whether it was from Southern charm or just a strong conviction of saying, I'm going to do that and that's it. And that's what we always admired about him.
Despite the initial chemistry, Priscilla's parents insisted that she never see Elvis again after her late arrival home. Their age gap was pronounced, which Priscilla has previously talked about. When we met, I was an impressionable 14-year-old. He was 24, she said. According to Priscilla, when he found out she was in 9th grade, he responded, "Why, you're just a baby."
I said, listen, you better get some keys. And he said, what do we need keys for? I said, to the fucking jail cell. They're going to put our ass in for you dating a 14-year-old girl. We ain't going to be able to
I'll
get
tell
out.
you where part of that came from.
What?
Why Frank Freeman? He was 70, 80 years old.
Yeah.
And we used to notice that he would walk the studio with this beautiful, beautiful young girls. They were probably starlit. So Dr. Blank at MGM Studios, who was the studio doctor, and he asked him, he says, I see Mr. Freeman, with all these young girls. He said, he's 70, 80 years old. He said, what can he do with these girls? And Dr. Blank looked at him and he said, Elvis, when you get Mr. Freeman's age, he said, you come see me. He said, I'll give you something that'll allow you to do that. He said, always remember one thing. He said, what's that? He said, when times get down, there's always a 15-year-old girl around the corner.
Elvis, there have been a lot of rumors about your love life. Did you meet anyone special in Germany?
There was a little girl that I was seeing quite often over there that her father was in the Air Force, and there were some pictures made of her. The stories came out, the girl he left behind, and all that. It wasn't like that. I mean, I had to be careful when I answer a question like that.
Due to Priscilla's age, they couldn't go out in public, but they maintained frequent contact. The only aspect missing from their relationship was full consummation. As Elvis's time in the Army drew to a close, Priscilla expressed a desire to take their relationship to the next level, but Elvis told her, "Someday we will, Priscilla, but not now. You're just too young." In March 1960, Elvis's enlistment in the Army was ending.
Elvis, there's a report that you like the Army so much that you wanted to write a book about it. Do you ever think of re-enlisting?
No, sir, I never thought of. I never thought of re-enlisting. But maybe someday I will write a book about my experiences in the Army.
Have 2 years of sobering Army life changed your mind about rock and roll?
Sobering Army life. No, it hasn't. It hasn't changed my mind, because I was in tanks for a long time, you see, and they rock and roll quite a bit.
Priscilla was known to send him love letters in pink envelopes so he could locate them amongst piles of fan mail. By 1962, Elvis requested Priscilla visit him in Los Angeles. Her parents agreed to let her leave under the conditions that Elvis would pay for her travel and have her write home each day. Elvis agreed to all these demands, and Priscilla flew to Los Angeles. Elvis told her they were going to Las Vegas, and to throw her parents off the scent, he had Priscilla write a postcard for every day they would be away, to be mailed from Los Angeles by a member of his staff. During their time there, Priscilla began taking amphetamines and sleeping pills to keep up with Elvis's nocturnal schedule. She also started wearing new, more adult outfits, which Elvis had purchased for her. In addition, the singer had Priscilla's hair and makeup adjusted to suit his preferences, telling her, "I like a lot of makeup." Priscilla visited Graceland for Christmas that year. Elvis asked her to finish high school in Memphis, which she was desperate to do. Her parents initially rejected the idea, but Priscilla continued to press the issue as Elvis tried to convince them their daughter would be safe living with his father and stepmother. Priscilla's parents let her move to Memphis for good in mid-March 1963. Part of the agreement was that Elvis would eventually ask for Priscilla's hand in marriage. Priscilla was keen to go to Hollywood to visit Elvis while he acted in movies. However, he repeatedly insisted he was too occupied and asked her to remain in Memphis. During the filming of Viva Las Vegas, whispers of an affair between Elvis and his co-star, Anne Margaret, began circulating in the media. Confronted by Priscilla, Elvis dismissed the reports as mere publicity stunts to boost the film's success, urging her not to believe everything in the press. Over the following years, Elvis treasured what he perceived as Priscilla's innocence, maintaining a celibate aspect to their relationship. Despite having intimate connections with numerous leading ladies and co-stars, Elvis denied these encounters to Priscilla. Eventually, she was allowed to visit him in Hollywood, but her visits were kept brief. Elvis continued to shape Priscilla into his ideal, earning her self-description as Elvis Living Doll, fashioned as he pleased. He went to great lengths, from adorning her teeth with porcelain caps to enforcing improvements in her posture. Not stopping there, he sought to mold her appearance in his likeness, dyeing her hair black to match his, styling it in an updo mirroring his pompadour, and insisting her wardrobe align with his signature colors. Over the years, Priscilla often found herself left behind at Graceland while Elvis jetted off to make movies, earning her the dubious title of a live-in Lolita. The driving force behind their decision to marry was Elvis's influential manager, Colonel Tom Parker, who feared potential repercussions if they continued without tying the knot. Under Parker's persistent nudging, Elvis proposed just before Christmas in 1966. After a 7-year courtship, the iconic duo officially became the Presleys in a hasty yet intimate Las Vegas civil ceremony on the morning of May 1st, 1967. In an orchestrated move, Parker arranged for the newlyweds to face the press immediately after exchanging vows. Following this brief encounter, Elvis and Priscilla were whisked away to a champagne breakfast at the Aladdin Hotel, attended by 100 guests.
The day he asked me to be the best man, he told me,
Yeah.
I don't want to get married, but I'm being forced to.
Yeah.
Because Elvis's lifespan with a woman was anywhere from 2 to 4 years.
I need to interject. It wasn't because he didn't love her.
No,
he did love
he
her.
cared
He didn't
about
want to get
her. Sure he
married
did.
because he shouldn't have been married. He
No.
didn't want to marry.
No, I know that.
Yeah, that's the key.
My wedding was very unusual, Priscilla told Closer Weekly. It was the people closest to us in private, and that's how we wanted it. We didn't want a fan club. We didn't want a circus.
She knew what she was getting into after she was here for maybe 6 months.
Well, she was in the whirlwind. There was no doubt about that.
Once she had a ring on her finger is when she tried to separate Elvis from us.
That's a good point.
Because the fact of the matter is, we would have loved to spend more time with our families.
Yeah.
But he insisted, as you all know, he insisted that we be there.
That's right.
He really gave her no choice because he didn't
Her
leave
ass
her
had more
alone so
airtime than a
much.
Goodyear blend.
I think he tried.
He left her alone a
I
lot.
think he tried, and and right after they got married, remember that he cut back on the group. So I think he was trying to make that change. Carl liked to change. Priscilla liked to change to some degree.
Well,
She
Colonel
would
was
like
trying to
to
keep
cut
that
it down,
control factor,
But he didn't like it.
Their wedding night marked the first time the couple took their relationship to the next level. Soon after, Priscilla discovered she was pregnant, sparking concerns in Elvis about the potential impact of fatherhood on his career. Around 7 months into Priscilla's pregnancy, Elvis proposed a trial separation, though the distance was brief. Their daughter, Lisa Marie, was born on February 1st, 1968. In her book, Elvis and Me, Priscilla revealed that during the filming of Live a Little, Love a Little, she sought solace in private dance lessons. These sessions, led by an instructor referred to as Mark in the book, ignited a brief affair. Despite confessing to the dalliance, Priscilla expressed regret, acknowledging, "I came out of it realizing I needed much more out of my relationship with Elvis." As Priscilla went through childbirth, Elvis hesitated to resume their intimate connection, claiming he wanted her to have ample time to recover. However, as Priscilla later disclosed, he had mentioned before we were married that he had never been able to make love to a woman who'd had a child. Meanwhile, Elvis continued engaging with other women, just as he had before their marriage. Despite Priscilla's brief affair and Elvis's intermittent flings with co-stars and leading ladies, the initial years of their marriage appeared happy. However, when Elvis's career took off again after his 1968 television special, he constantly toured and played in Las Vegas.
Just relax and take it real slow. Cool it, baby. You ain't got no place to go. Just put your arms around me real tight. Enjoy yourself.
Elvis had also seen other women on and off, often leaving Priscilla at home with Lisa Marie.
In Hollywood and Vegas, there were plenty of girls around. And on the sets, we had a lot of girls on the sets that we worked. Elvis liked them because they inspired him doing his numbers in the movie when he performed, filming the musical numbers. And he had several of them a nucleus type thing that he wanted, and he wanted them where he was going to be working, sitting at tables so he could see them, because they really liked him, he liked them, and they inspired him with their laughing and their cutting up with him. And so they were there, but we had friendships with them. There wasn't really anything really happening. A lot of them were married, just working extra, but they just enjoyed being around Elvis and us guys just to talk. And then there were some that we had affairs with. But the thing with Elvis is he had his own thing going with his co-stars, and in Vegas the same thing. He had ladies there also that he would bring in. He'd take them on tour, He'd meet them in Vegas, Lake Tahoe. He spotted one there that she looked like she was 20, 21 years old, and she was really like 25 or 26. And it really, we found out later when Elvis told us how old, because I just thought that's how old she was. She was very pretty. We're walking off the stage after he finished his number. Sonny, did you see that girl? I said, I got her covered, boss. I knew exactly which one he's talking about. So I went back out there. Her name was Paige. And I asked her, I said, Paige? At the time I introduced myself, she told me her name. I said, Paige, would you like to meet Elvis? She looked at me and she said, how would I meet him? I said, well, I work for him. And I said, he asked me if he could, if you'd like to come backstage and say hi to him. She said, yes. I took her back there. And she was as sweet and wonderful as she could be, and Elvis just flipped over. He really liked her. So she spent some time with him there in Tahoe, and then we went to Palm Springs. He'd fly her into Palm Springs. He'd fly her into Vegas. So it was, he had his way of getting his situation under control. We had ours.
Elvis was a keen karate student and persuaded Priscilla to take it up. Intrigued by the idea of having a hobby to occupy her time and wanting to share Elvis's interests, Priscilla readily embraced the challenge. Following disruptions from Elvis, Priscilla began taking lessons from Mike Stone, a karate instructor she had met in 1972 backstage at one of Elvis's concerts. She soon began an affair with him. Priscilla states in her book, "My relationship with Mike had now developed into an affair. I still loved Elvis greatly, but over the next few months, I knew I would have to make a crucial decision regarding my destiny." She later states, "Elvis must have perceived my new restlessness."
Priscilla was married, Elvis wasn't. I think it's a good way to say it. And it really, you know, he didn't consider himself married, only she did.
But were things changing for you? I mean, were you...
Well, yeah, because the pressure was really starting to ramp up pretty bad, you know, and he was losing, and he Elvis didn't like to lose. But I don't think it's Elvis more so than any other man, especially when you find out she's going out with somebody else. It's a blow to any man's psyche. I don't think that, and especially to his.
A couple of months later, she said that Elvis had requested to see her in his hotel suite. It was then that she wrote in her book that Elvis forcefully made love to me, and he said, "This is how a real man makes love to his woman." After this incident, Priscilla summarized, "This was not the gentle, understanding man I grew to love."
Elvis had a temper. He had a bad temper. His mother had one. His temper was like a black cloud when it came in full blown, buddy. It was a Category 5 tornado, okay? It just covered all the area around, the whole room, the whole atmosphere. And you didn't know until you knew who it was about that had got him that way, what thoughts, who he was thinking about that got him this, or who had done something. You may have done something the night before or earlier that day that might have got him mad like this, so you didn't know, and you really didn't feel a whole lot of relief when it wasn't even you that he was upset, because it was still there. It was still there weighing down on you.
Later that month, Elvis reportedly became paranoid about Mike Stone and said, "There's too much pain in me. Stone must die." His outbursts continued with such intensity that a physician could not calm him, even with large doses of medication. After another 2 days of raging, Elvis's friend and bodyguard, Red West, made inquiries to arrange a contract killing of Stone, but was relieved when Elvis said, "Aw hell, let's just leave it for now. Maybe it's a bit heavy." As the years passed and Elvis grappled with escalating addiction issues, Priscilla came to the realization that their marriage couldn't withstand the growing distance. Their divorce, officially concluded on October 9, 1973, unfolded amicably, marking the end of an era for both.
I'm just a man, take my hand. We'll make a space in this life that we planned, and he will stay until it's time for you to go. Yes, we're different, worlds apart, we're not the same. We laughed and played at the stars like in a game. You could have stayed outside my heart, but you came. And he'll stay until it's time for you to go. Don't ask why.
As his divorce was finalized, Elvis Presley's health took a severe hit. Suffering 2 barbiturate overdoses that year, he spent 3 days in a coma after the first incident.
If you'll remember correctly, in late '74, whatever, up College Park, Maryland, he got out of that limousine. I helped him out like I always do at the back of the hotel. His hair was unkempt. It was always done before it was unkempt. He didn't have a hat or one of those hats or anything on it. And I thought, what in the world? He said, "Hey, Sonny," very slurred. And I thought, oh, boy. We got upstairs. I asked the guys what was going on. They told me. We went up to the security room and we said a circle prayer for Elvis because I was so scared of what was happening.
That episode toward the end of his life was the most terrorizing thing we'd all gone through. It, all the fun that we had had 20 years before was gone, and it became joyless. It became moments of great fun followed by continual panic.
By the end of 1973, he found himself hospitalized, semi-comatose due to his addiction to pethidine. According to his primary care physician, Dr. George C. Nichopoulos, Presley felt that by getting drugs from a doctor, he wasn't the common everyday junkie getting something off the street.
In 1975, what I had been seeing a little bit of the previous year or so was getting worse, and I was very concerned about his health. And it wasn't like it had been before when he was taking the uppers and the sleeping pills. When he started experimenting with the, the down stuff, that's when we started getting concerned.
One time we were in the bedroom talking, and he said, Lamar, he said, I'm probably standing over your grave when they put you in the ground. And I said, well, let me preface what you're saying here with something of mine. I said, for some strange reason, I can never see you as an old man. And I never could. I used to try to, and I never could. And I always wondered what was that problem. And the problem, I think, was that I saw what all was going on.
The journalist Tony Sherman wrote that by early 1977, Presley had become a grotesque caricature of his sleek, energetic former self. Grossly overweight, his mind dulled by the pharmacopoeia he daily ingested, he was barely able to pull himself through his abbreviated concerts.
I could not believe how he deteriorated in the year I was gone. When I saw the CBS special, I was shocked and I was pissed.
I state my case, of which I'm certain. I've lived, life is full. I traveled each and every highway and more. much more than this. I did it my way.
And I called Colonel Parker one of the few times I ever did on a negative. How could you let him, I called him and I went and met with him. How could you let him be on camera like that? And he said, well, you're a manager, because I managed the Beach Boys at this time. You're a manager, you have to give the artist offers. I said, how could you? He said, I put an offer out there that was ridiculous. And CBS came back with it, and I took it to Elvis, and he wanted to do it. The point is that he wasn't in great shape when I left, but he certainly wasn't. When I saw that, yeah, the man looked like he was going to die.
On the fateful evening of August 16, 1977, scheduled to kick off another tour, Ginger Alden discovered him unresponsive on the bathroom floor of his Graceland mansion. Elvis Presley had died at age 42.
Presley was maybe at the height of his career, 10 or 15 years ago. Though his fans would dispute that, they would say that his popularity has never grown dim. And that's why they've come to pay their respects, to stand outside his house here, some of them to drive past the house in their cars, to pay their respects to the man they still call the King of Rock and Roll.
I just can't tell you in words. It was such a great shock to everybody, and to Memphis especially. He's a boy just like I was raised for, but he made it, and he was good to everybody.
All I feel is just hurt. I hurt all over.
Well, to me, he was the greatest. He was the birth of rock and roll. He's been the greatest through the 50s and 60s, on through the 70s. And he'll live on forever. Even though he's passed on, the memory is still here. He'll be with us for always.
Priscilla said, "It was a shock, although I saw his health failing and even went back to Memphis once to see if there was anything I could do." In her memoir, she wrote that after learning of Elvis's death, she felt like a piece of her had died with him. "We had a bond. We'd become closer and had more understanding and patience for each other than in our married life," she wrote. "We even talked of one day. And now he was gone.